It is not every week that a Taoiseach unexpectedly resigns. While some politicians responded with warmth and graciousness, despite their political differences with Leo Varadkar, others lashed out, searching, as so often in Irish history, to identify a scapegoat for all the problems that prevail in Irish society. As I prepared for Palm Sunday last year, in my homily, I made reference to the enormous crowds spilling out onto the streets in Israel, creating noisy and flame-filled scenes stirred by intense flag-waving in protest against unhealthy and harmful judicial reforms being championed by a government with dubious motives. At that time, little did we know what would happen in October 2023 in Israel, sparking such a deadly assault on Palestine. As Leo Varadkar bids farewell to serious political power and prestige, it seems somewhat perplexing that he is exiting after his morally courageous comments over St. Patrick's weekend in the USA, in which he condemned Israel's immoral, relentless attack on civilians in Palestine. It is argued that political power has been rooted in the crowd since the foundation of the world. It's the crowd's need for a scapegoat that set events in motion. The crowds flocked to Jerusalem for the feast of Passover and the holy days that mark the liberation of the people from slavery in Egypt. It is a season that stirs up the hopes and frustrations of the people who lived under the control of the Romans, whom they detest as not only their enemies, but as enemies of God. The enthusiasm of the crowd on Palm Sunday is sincere, but there is also a desire for revenge. During Holy Week, the crowd turned quickly against Jesus. There are so many dimensions to Holy Week. One that strikes me this year is that death is part of being human. We all must die. Jesus died the way he lived, passionately devoted and obedient to God, and we are called to do the same. Simon Boas, director of Jersey Overseas Aid Commission, announced in recent days, "I'm sorry to have to announce that my cancer situation has developed not necessarily to my advantage." He writes, "So it seems I'm going to hop the twig, and probably sooner rather than later. But many things give me comfort at the minute. The huge support and compassion which my wife Aurelie and I have received from friends, neighbours, and even total strangers. My job, which I'm so lucky to love, I'm still working every day, but quite often leave at 3 p.m. for a pint with someone. The rules are different in cancer land." Later he writes, "My second comforting thought is this: nobody knows whether there's a God or an afterlife. But it seems unlikely to me that our existence is merely a brief and random flash of consciousness between two eternities of nothing." Simon then adds, "The thought that I keep coming back to is how lucky it is to have lived at all. To exist is to have won the lottery." The cross during Holy Week cries out loudly that our religion is about uncrucifying the world, about resisting unnecessary pain and humiliation. The cross is as much a symbol of life as it is of death. Holy Week recognizes the hopes and frustrations that prevail in the lives of every generation. Yet, Holy Week cautions against scapegoating. It helps us to value the preciousness of human life and the courage at critical times to stand alone. Amen.